Welcome in to another episode of, we're still working on the name of the title, but this is the Betting the Pitch Podcast Network. It's becoming a network at this point. I am here, the real _G Warner on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, all those sort of things, with one of my great friends, Andrew Schnicker, _SCHNITKER on Twitter. And we are here to discuss week one of the National Football League. It's here, it's back. Schnitty, are you excited for this?
Oh, I'm so excited. Week two is my favorite week. I know it's your favorite week too. Because at this point, we got some beat up numbers that have just been sitting on the shelf for months. And week one is always, it gets a little wild. So we have to be very selective.
I will give some of the background where some of these numbers opened. Correct me if I'm wrong on some of these numbers that I'm outlaying or speaking of, but all lines quoted in this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced usage offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in this podcast description to fund your account. Use promo code GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. Highly recommend getting as many outs as possible, no matter where you are. Because ultimately getting a better number is how you win in this business. So we'll start Thursday night. We're gonna go through each of the games, have best bets end of show, of course. So stick around for that. Don't fast forward to the end. You'll get in trouble if you do. Just kidding. We probably can't do anything about that. But anyway, we'll start on Thursday night with the Detroit Lions visiting the Kansas City Chiefs, currently down to a -5. Kansas City at home, -5. Over under is 53. And we had some news about Travis Kelce today. I think that broke. Not sure he's going to be available on Thursday night. I'll let you start, Shani. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I was doing a good deep dive on all the Twitter doctors out there. You can find a lot of those. So it's a knee injury of some sort with Travis Kelce. And so you saw that line. I mean, even a week and a half ago, it was at 7. And so we hit below that key, got to 6.5 earlier this week, maybe late last week. And now it's down to 5. So Travis Kelce worth 1.5, but not really a massively valuable 1.5. 6 is fine. I think that's probably fair. I don't think we're going to see him play in 2 days or however many days before you listen to this. I mean, they're playing Thursday. It's Tuesday night. I have a hard time believing he's going to be out there. And without him, the awesome Chiefs offense is going to have to figure out pull another rabbit out of their hat, because they've got this assortment of talent that we don't really know how it all comes together other than with Patrick Mahomes. So who is their other guy? I'm a big fan of Isaiah Pacheco, but that's not the way that they usually move the ball, unless they get him out in the passing game, which was not his specialty last year. And the other receivers that they have is just a hodgepodge. Rashee Rice has got a lot of attention, the rookie out of SMU. Sky Moore. We could just name all these guys that Mecole Hardman, who's gone, right? He's gone. Yep. So I don't know what we're going to see with the Chiefs offense. It's going to be obviously the primetime game. It's going to be a massive public versus professional side, I'm sure, with a lot of people excited about the Chiefs. But with the Kelce news, I think you might even see some of the more recreational sides, peel back and turn to the Lions, because they have become quite the darlings across the NFL.
Yeah, so the Lions were pretty popular towards the end of last season, had 1 million points scored in a lot of their games. So I feel like, unfortunately, the Kelce injury does potentially impact the production of the Kansas City Chiefs offense, which might hurt the total a little bit. I haven't seen that moving too much. It's currently 53, as I just said, but I have just watching the number move from 7 across 6.5 to 6 and now down to 5. Pretty easy to move through those numbers between, I think, 6 to 4.5 or so. But I can't imagine that we're going to see, there's got to be some money that's coming in on the Chiefs, no matter who they are, what they are. People that haven't heard Kelce injury news or really are just backing the Super Bowl champions at home in the opener, which I feel like that team usually does pretty well. Moving to Sunday, we'll come back, of course. If we got a best bet on that one, we'll touch on it later. We'll start with Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons, as this is first in the rotation order. And we got the Panthers, a 3.5 point underdog, a little bit more juice on that side. Over under is 39.5, with juice split pretty much both ways. Have this number jockeying between 3.5 down to 3 and then back to 3.5. And the total has been falling very hard ever since at least it came out. I think it saw 43.5 initially. My thoughts on this one is that Atlanta wants to run the ball a ton. That shouldn't surprise anybody when they draft a running back in the eighth pick of the NFL draft. The Carolina Panthers are a little bit more confusing to me. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's very clear we've got sides battling here with the 3 versus the 3.5, 3 the most valuable number in the NFL. And now back out to 3.5. I do think you're going to see a lot of people early, like really high on the Falcons. And I'm one of, I think the Falcons are going to have a great season. I picked them as my best bet to win the NFC South at plus 200. But this is still the first game of a long process for them. And I think even getting some of those skill players, I have high expectations for even Kyle Pitts, getting all those guys back in the rotation. I don't know what we're going to see out of the Panthers. Everything in the preseason was just atrocious with just kind of hodgepodge offensive lines and no one able to protect Bryce Young. Frank Reich, his first game as the head coach of the Panthers. I appreciate his coaching mind, but it usually takes some time, no matter where you're at, to get the guys in place. But still, yet that 3.5 is scaring me. I think at 3, I would be leaning towards a buy on the Falcons. But 3.5 with so many games closing and finishing at 3, it's a little uncomfortable, even with a really unproven and unknown team in the Panthers, because I don't see much from their defense. Brian Burns is one of their best assets, and he's unhappy with his contract situation. And yet you still have Bryce Young, who I think is an exceptional talent, but not much else to work with around him.
I guess this owner who has been made all his money in the stock market is not willing to spend as much as the New York Mets, Steve Cohen. Based on just the line and the metrics of this line, I think I'm using 2.5 this year as my home field advantage type of number. So that's saying the Carolina Panthers are only a point worse than Atlanta. It seems a little bit short to me. So I feel like I'm kind of with you. I don't know that I really want to step in the way of what will be the Bijan Mustardson show coming forward this season. Next, we go to Houston visiting Baltimore and what might be the biggest survivor pick of the week. Texans are a 10-point dog on the road. Over-under is 43.5. And number hasn't moved a ton, maybe between 9.5 and 10. Totals come down a little bit. Like it seems like a lot of these are. Do we think the Texans are going to give a Ravens offense, which sounds like they're going to pass the ball a lot more this year? Do you think they're going to give them some trouble?
They could. I think the Texans secondary is one of the bright spots of the team. And you've got a head coach that is completely focused on defense. And I think with a defensive minded coach, you usually see that light turn on. You see the switch flip a little bit faster. I think it's easier to get the guys to focus defensively and to play with effort, especially at the start of a year. I just don't, if you're in a survivor pool, just don't take the rate. Like, don't be that person. This game is going to be so obvious. Like, just save them. I'm just telling you that I have no real opinion on a 10-point spread, especially because I like CJ Stroud as well. I want to be backing the Ravens at some points this season, but I'm not going to do it here.
Yeah, big price. Unfortunately, a lot of my awful start to last NFL season was based on backing the Texans over and over, who played really great for 3 quarters and then succumbed in the 4th. I feel like this is another exact type of scenario for that thing to occur. Moving next to a pretty big rivalry, Cincinnati Bengals visiting the Cleveland Browns, which I feel like I have some memorable at least games in my mind of the Browns really stomping the Bengals. But the Bengals are a 2.5-point favorite here on the road in the battle for Ohio. Over under is 47. And it looks like this number is kind of stuck around at minus 2.5 for the road team pretty much the whole time. And actually the total has risen a little bit from a 46.5 through 47 to 47.5 back to 47. I guess there's some questions, of course, about Joe Burrow and his health. I haven't heard anything about him missing this matchup. I imagine the Browns would probably close a favorite if there's a backup situation here. Do we feel like Nick Chubb can control the clock? They run the ball a ton, get enough first downs, and keep Joe Burrow off the field and potentially a Browns upset?
That's certainly the goal for them. Stefanski's offense is so much dedicated on the running game and the tight ends and keeping the possessions low I think I think they have a good shot at it. I think just everything with the Bengals and with Joe Burrow. I like the way that the Browns can play in this game. I like the way that they handle this division rival. And so I would lean towards the Browns in this one.
Yeah, I think that's the way I'm most interested. Just I gotta say the home field advantage that I just said, I'm giving 2.5 points usually for NFL teams, unless there's a really good scenario or something of that nature. I do a little bit I'm a little concerned with only getting 2.5 from Joe Burrow, though, considering what he can do. No game seems to be over. When he's trailing by 3 late, they might score that touchdown to beat you and cover the spread, unfortunately. So that's my biggest fear. Moving on now to the Jacksonville Jaguars visiting the Indianapolis Colts. Jags a -4.5 favorite on the road. A little bit more juice too at BetOnline. Over under is 45.5. A little bit more juice to the under. It looks like the number's been climbing. Probably a lot to do with Jonathan Taylor deciding that he's got the flu or something like that six months ago. And I got to say, the Jags are getting a lot of love, as we talked about. We're on our first show. If you haven't watched that one, check it out. Futures episode. We get best bets at the end of that, of course. But the Jags are pretty popular team right now, and I'm a little bit hesitant. It had a good end of the last season, but I'm not really sure that momentum really carries over to the next year.
When I was looking through every game, this game screamed, like it was yelling at me, this is Griffin's game. This is Griffin's game to a T, to take the Colts, the team that has just been bashed all offseason, has all these issues. A new head coach, Anthony Richardson, making his first start. It just lines up so perfectly. Because like 4.5 is a big number, because we're just, I like the Jags. They had one of the better offenses in the league last year, and I think it's only going to get better. It's going to be a fun team to watch. I'm excited to watch them play. I have some real concerns about their offensive line, protecting Trevor Lawrence and giving him enough time to get out there and going. Are the Colts the team to put pressure on him? I don't know. That'll tell us a lot. If the Colts are able to get a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence, then we really need to start looking at our numbers for the Jags. But still, like I will not be playing this game. I think it screams to take the dog at 4.5, but I will not be playing it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you know me so well that it is definitely on my radar. I am trying to make a decision, though, early on in this NFL season, that I'm not looking to back the worst teams in the league, a la the Houston Texans last year. Next, we'll go to Tampa Bay visiting Minnesota. We got the Vikes, a 5.5 point favorite at home. Over under is 45. And it looks like in terms of movement, it's come down. It wasn't all the way up to 7, but I have it as high as 6.5, all the way coming down to 5.5 at present. And the total hasn't really moved. So do we believe in this Vikings just try to outscore you type of game plan?
I think you're seeing the evidence of everyone trying to make all that money back after the Vikings had one of the most ridiculous, like close score wins last year. You're looking at, whatever kind of metrics, the Pythag or whatever you want to look at with win totals last year and what they should have gotten versus what they did, and then trying to immediately fade them into the first week of the season. And sometimes I would just caution patience with that, because you can make some money back on the Vikings, but you may just want to take a little bit more time. It all lines up. They're at home. It's obviously a great home field advantage. I would up it a little bit if I'm talking about Minnesota's home field advantage up there, but it's going to be Baker Mayfield. He's played in the league long enough. I don't know what's happening with all of their skill players. Mike Evans isn't particularly happy. I feel like he's going to play no matter what, but I just don't love the Bucs. I don't know what they're doing on offense. I don't know what their offensive philosophy is going to be here. And that makes me nervous. I feel like they're going to go super conservative, super bland. And that's not going to lead me to a win on the dog.
Yeah, and that's going to be hard, because if the Vikings are going to score a lot of points, then you got to keep up. And I'm not sure that I can ever really trust a Baker Mayfield to do that type of thing, at least not until it's end of the year and he's just signed off the street and plays really well for the Rams or something in that nature. Now I'll go to the Tennessee Titans, who are my pick. Excuse me, you got to listen to the Futures podcast. Sorry, I'm not going to give that away. But the Titans are a 3-point dog at the New Orleans Saints. Over under is 41. We got very heavily juiced Saints number. They don't want to move it off 3, probably. The books, I imagine they don't want to push on this one, but there's probably some good value in that -3 if you're betting the favorite. Maybe waiting till 3.5 if you like Titans. seems like the Titans are going to pass the ball a lot more this year too, which is a little bit of a change from just give the ball to Derrick Henry, get out of the way type of style that they've been using. The Saints, though, I think have a lot of questions. Alvin Kamara is suspended for this, and I think the next 2 games as well. What do we think? I know that the Saints were a question mark for you, especially as a favorite in the NFC South. I mean, they still have, I'm sure, a pretty good crowd advantage at home, and that's going to make it hard on what should be a pretty, I guess, new offense potentially for the Titans if they're truly going to stick to this. We're going to pass the ball a lot more this year.
This game has variance written all over it. The Saints defense, it's Dennis Allen. His mindset is obviously all defense. And we've talked about Derek Carr. I think I'm a little higher on Derek Carr, actually, probably a lot higher on Derek Carr than you are.
Would be,
but
really
again, I like Vrabel.
Really hard. Would be really hard for you not to be. Go ahead.
Okay, fair enough. I would lean towards the home team here, but it makes me weird. Every time you count out the Titans, they have this most ridiculous underdog record. I need to pull up the stat and figure out exactly what it was, because that's just not good enough for our podcast here. But when they're an underdog, Vrabel knows how to cover the spread. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, and they're getting 3 points, so they lose by that late field goal at the buzzer. You survive, or I mean, some missed extra point at the end gets a little bit hairy, of course, too. There's a lot of beauty in taking a 3-point dog. It's a little bit tougher when you go on the road and have to deal with the Who Dat Nation and all that sort of stuff, and maybe potentially a few beignets before you get out on the field. But I think it's like maybe that's more for the crowd than the Titans, actually. I'm sure they're only eating very, very healthy diets and things of that nature. It's hard when, if the Titans take a lead, they're going to be really hard to come back on. I still have a lot of questions about the Saints offense, but we'll see if this ends up on one of our cards at the end of the show. San Francisco 49ers then visit Pittsburgh in an early start for a West Coast team that's gotten a lot of respect coming into this season. Niners on 2.5 point favorite on the road. Over under is 41. A little bit juice to the over and a little bit more juice on the Steelers, who are clearly very popular. It looks like this open -3 came back down to 2.5, and we've also seen the total drop from 41.5 to 41. I'm still questioning Brock Purdy, but I'm not questioning Shanahan and his offense and really the game plan that he puts together. Whereas the Steelers, I have real questions about their quarterback.
You don't like Kenny Pickett?
I haven't yet. I rate him a little bit lower than Derek Carr.
Really?
I mean, he's got to show me something. Derek Carr, at least I know, is great at checkdowns and putting up a ton of garbage stats late in games. That is what I rate Derek Carr at. Kenny, I think there's a little bit more for me to learn.
I like the Steelers. I was toying with them as a best bet, but some of those numbers when we were discussing these have just gotten so far away from what could have been done. It's not smart to do that. And so I'm trying to be cautious. I think the going across the country, it doesn't affect it as much. You're talking about week 1, so you're not like dealing with a body blow type situation. You're not dealing with all this travel. It's to me, that doesn't matter all that much in this game. But yeah, kind of like you, I just have a lot of questions about Brock Purdy and how much better is he going to be? And is what we saw in that little bit snippet last year, is that enough? Like, is that good enough to keep the 49ers to where they've been in previous years? I think if this gets back to 3, it's probably making it on my card with the home dog.
There we go. That's a buy price for the people. If you see a Steelers +3, get ready for _Schnicker on Twitter to throw something out there to you. We'll move next, and it looks like the last of the early slate, and we got another West Coast team-ish with the Arizona Cardinals visiting the Washington football team. And currently the Cardinals are a 7-point underdog. Really rare for me to see that number 7 that's out there in this league. I feel like they either throw at 6.5 or 7.5, try to stay as far away from the push as they possibly can. Total here is 37.5, down from 40.5. Probably a lot to do with Kyler Murray not suiting up for at least the first 4 games. Who knows? Maybe he'll hold out. Maybe he'll play video games and not read the playbook. Any sort of interest thinking that the Commanders are, sorry, I've been meaning to say Washington football team the whole year, but I've already broken that. Do we think that they are actually this good to be laying 7 points to anybody? I know the Cardinals are not exactly trying to win this year.
So I don't, everyone got real fired up with Sam Howell had one really great preseason game. And it was against the Ravens, right? And, the Ravens take the preseason very seriously. So I get it. But before that, like, I don't know if it was just like coach speak or if it was a tactic to try to motivate his guys, but Ron Rivera is going out there talking about how he's not sure Sam Howell is the starter. He's like, this is like not, it just wasn't the kind of vibe that you would expect for a young quarterback if your coach is trying to like build him up and like make him the leader of this team. And then the Cardinals are just a mess, but I feel like they've become such a punching bag this offseason. Like they're going to be really, really awful, like real bad. And probably even when Kyler Murray comes back. There's just been so much talk on social media about how ill-equipped this team is. But 7, man, I don't know if I could with the Washington football team. It's scary.
I mean, we've seen Riverboat Ron do a really great job of managing his quarterback situation.
That's true.
Especially giving Carson Wentz the keys to the very overpriced vehicle last year that was I thought potentially going to make it to the playoffs, but if not for, I mean, I think they should have stayed with Taylor, whatever, Heineke. That was my guy. I think he kind of put that season in downward tailspin, but it does seem like a very respectful number for the Washington football team. But then again, I don't know what number you have to put out there to get Arizona Cardinals money. So now we'll go to the afternoon slate. Green Bay Packers, they are on the road at the Chicago Bears. Bears a -1 point favorite. Over under is 43. And this one's come down a little bit. At least I had a 3 at one point that I was looking at. All the way down through 3, that key number, all the way down to 1. Doesn't take too much to move it from 2.5 to 2 to 1.5 to 1, but getting off 3 is saying something. The totals come down from 45.5 to 43. I still have big questions about Jordan Love, certainly big questions about Justin Fields, but I know he can run. I don't know what Jordan Love can do. So I'm a little bit tempted by the Chicago Bears run at all costs offense.
Yeah, you said that. To not become too basic with it, it's so much about the two quarterbacks. I'm higher on Jordan Love because I think the pieces around the Packers are pretty good, and I think like if he's had all this time in the system and he's had some game reps, like there has to be some sort of progression there that I think he's going to handle himself better than some of those like Tennessee Titan quarterbacks they threw out last year.
Easy there.
Yeah. And I like Justin Fields, but every time you look at the numbers with him, any sort of efficiency metrics or anything else, it's pretty bottom of the basement type stuff. But he is such a dynamic athlete. When you're talking about 1, it's such a different ballgame than if we were having this conversation maybe even a week ago when we were able to potentially get up to 3. I would love to have the Packers at 3. At 1, not doing it for me.
Yeah, I think both these teams are going to run the ball a lot. The Bears, as we've clearly demonstrated, as their quarterback doesn't really know how to throw. But then the Packers, I think the way they design their offense, they really want to run the ball as much as possible. So we'll see how that ends up turning out. I mean, clearly the number +3 is gone and doesn't look like it will be coming back in the next few days. But I do feel like if both these teams are going to run the heck out of the ball, maybe an under 43 might be worth a look. Next, I'll move to the Las Vegas Raiders visiting the Denver Broncos. A lot of questions about both these teams. Broncos a 3.5 point favorite at home. Over under is 44. Looks like this number's been climbing, maybe based on Sean Payton love affairs, or I don't know if there's been a new Mr. Unlimited video that's come out or something like that to get everybody on Russell Wilson's back, or I guess wagon, whatever we're calling it. The Raiders don't look great, but I feel like I need to see it from the Broncos before I trust them.
The 2 bottom teams in the AFC West going at it. I mean, the Raiders have all the great toys. Jimmy Garoppolo is fine. He's decent. But like
he's big in the QB wins metrics, that's for sure.
that, well, he's he's the cliche system QB, right? Like he's the guy. But when the system is Kyle Shanahan's system, that's okay. Josh McDaniel, I'm not so sure. And also the pieces around him to like complement. It is still a complementary game. So we have questions on both offensive lines. I would say they're both not very good. You have two quarterbacks that one maybe got too much credit and the other one is not enough. So there's nothing. I have no strong opinion on this game. I will watch and take some notes because it's gross.
Got it. Dolphins then visit the Los Angeles Chargers, and what should be a battle of two teams with no home field advantage. But I guess the Chargers are getting 3 points for it seems here, unless they're slightly better than the Dolphins. Over-under is 51.5, which feels pretty high, but I think that's going to be what we're seeing in a lot of Charger games this year is not a lot of defense, a lot of points being scored. Miami's climbed to a 3-point dog from 2.5 earlier. Do we like the Dolphins potentially bringing all their fans out west to Los Angeles? I mean, there might be no one at this game.
Yeah, they're going to bring 3 buses full of fans all the way out to the West Coast.
Right. Nice. Scared of flying. I mean, I have some interest in, I never really know what to expect from Tua, but I would think game by game, season long, I think he's really tough to rely upon, but we know he's available for this game, assuming he makes it through healthy. I feel like the Chargers are just one of those teams that never really do a great job of separating themselves, and all of a sudden are in these games that they were leading throughout that all of a sudden they are struggling at the end and sometimes lose. So with that 3 points cushion in your pocket, it might be a little interesting. Get Miami even on the wrong coast.
I'll just say real quick, just watch the Chargers offense. Just Kellen Moore, the former OC for the Cowboys. See if it's any different. See what we're like. This game is a great build up to maybe some future bets, just to see if it's actually clicking.
Cool. Next we'll go the Eagles visiting the New England Patriots, the Super Bowl matchup from years ago. But the Eagles are a 4-point favorite at the Patriots. Haven't seen that in a long time. Over-under is 45, which, I mean, based on the New England Patriot offense from the last few years, ever since Tom Brady left, that feels gigantic. But I don't know really that a lot of people are expecting anyone to stop the Eagles this year. They were so dynamic last year, kind of came out of nowhere. And I guess the big question is, can they keep up with really the standards they set from a season before?
Yeah, it's always like the year after. Is it a slow start? We've seen that so many different times with the team that loses in the Super Bowl, what they look like coming right out, because obviously they've got all the talent in the world. I have higher expectations for the Patriots offense. I think Mac Jones is going to be better with Bill O'Brien calling the shots. It's better than a defensive mind being the offensive coordinator. Like, still do not understand what the heck was going on there. It's a tricky one.
You don't question the guy that cuts his sleeves off his hoodie.
Moly. Lee. One of the more insane NFL decisions I've seen from one of the smarter minds in the NFL. It's interesting. I did toy with that one for maybe a couple minutes from now.
Okay. Well, we'll think about it. All I know is Mac Jones one time threw 3 passes in an NFL game, and somehow I think I won my bet on the Patriots that night. So that is one thing I will never probably see again, and I hope that I'll never see it again. We'll go, I guess, the last one of the Sunday afternoon window. We'll go the Rams. They are visiting the Seattle Seahawks. Currently, Seattle, 5-point favorite. Over-under is 45.5. Looks like Cooper Kupp might not be playing in this one. That's not great because I don't think Van Jefferson is really a number one wideout on any sort of team. The Seahawks, I think it's going to be up to them. They were really good last year and didn't get a lot of respect, I felt. And this is a perfect spot for them to start the season off with a victory. Doesn't have to be lopsided. A 5-point spread, just win by a single possession. You're potentially in the money. Do you think the Rams have a shot in this one?
Man, pretty bleak. I feel like we can spend our time better on the other games.
Let's go. Last 2 we'll get through, and then best bets coming, of course, end of show. We got the Cowboys visiting the New York Giants, which seems like Sunday Night Football every season was going for 5 or 6 years. Kind of came back off that, but now we're back again. The Cowboys, a 3.5-point favorite on the road. Over under is 46.5. Do we think that the Giants are going to completely overcome and really exceed expectations like they did all of last season?
I think there's going to be incremental progress, but maybe that doesn't look the same in the win-loss record this year. I think Daniel Jones is going to take another step forward because of the smartest guy in offense right now for me with Brian Daboll, putting him in the right positions to do that. I think Saquon Barkley is ready to roll for the most part, whether that means he's got a chip on his shoulder or whatnot. I really like the Giants offense. Conversely, I'm okay with the Cowboys offense. I think Kellen Moore, while at the end of the year was not the greatest at adapting to the way the defenses handled his offense. I think he was a pretty smart mind, and I'm really uncomfortable with the idea of Mike McCarthy is like full hands-on in this offense.
Just feels gigantic for the Cowboys to be laying this type of price with as many questions as pretty much the franchise has in as many directions as possible. And we'll go to Monday night, and then we'll get you our best bets that have been teasing the whole show. The Buffalo Bills visiting the New York Jets in an all New York matchup, but actually the game's happening in New Jersey. But the Bills are 2.5-point favorite. Over under is 46.5. It seems like Josh Allen's about as healthy as he's going to be as the season starts. So, and I got to say, I'm kind of on the side where I'm selling the Jets for now. Until they prove to me and Aaron Rodgers proves that he can do something in a green and white jersey as opposed to green and yellow. I don't think that you're completely on board with me being anti-Jets, though.
No, not totally. I still think, though, like primetime spot, it's a 2.5-point line, and you've got one of the favorites in the NFL minus 2.5. That is going to be such a massive bet split, and not my favorite words to use just talking about bet splits, but sometimes they can matter a little bit, and you're going to have so many people on the Bills that night.
I know you prefer banana splits, but it looks like this number was a -3, fell down to 2.5, where we're currently seeing it. The Bills are a little bit more juiced, but we'll see. And we would expect, I would think, a lot of people chasing their losses on Sunday night into Monday, potentially playing the Bills to avoid paying their bookie. So we have reached the best bets portion of the show. If you're listening on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, leave 5-star reviews, subscribe, do the likes, do all those sort of things as we try to bring this out to the world. Feel free to slide in either of our DMs. We got _Schnicker on Twitter, plus mine, the real _G Warner. A lot of underscores, but we'll get back to whatever you think in terms of what you'd like to do moving forward. But it's best bet time. And being that I'm kind of the host of this show, I guess, I'll let you, Schnick, lead us off with your best bet for this week 1 of the NFL season.
You don't have to go too far back. I'm going to take the Giants plus 3.5 in that primetime spot. To me, the Cowboys offense is something to wait and see. That a lot of the preseason notes were pretty positive in terms of the Cowboys, but I'm going to wait and see it before I start buying in. And I also just think in general, the Cowboys have not been the fastest starting team. They've won some games to start the year, but the offense hasn't always clicked. So I have very few questions about their front seven on the defensive side. I think it's a really good team. I have questions about the secondary, and I think I'll definitely take the Giants at home. Crazy night plus 3.5.
Take that 3.5. Well, at the risk of making a double best bet, I'm gonna, because I like it too, as you probably are not surprised, despite sitting in Dallas as I record, I'm gonna go kind of along the lines of my pick from episode 1, which you're gonna have to check out. I'm gonna go to Tennessee Titans plus 3 on the road at the New Orleans Saints. I believe in a thing called love. I believe in a thing called Mike Vrabel. I think he's gonna go in there and make this a really tough game for the Saints. If the Saints fall behind early, which they tend to be careless from time to time, I think it's gonna be really hard for them to get back in this game. I'm gonna be waiting to see if a 3.5 pops before this ends up kicking off on Sunday, but we'll see. Until then, we're gonna keep, I guess, putting these out Tuesday nights going forward. So hopefully in your Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube feeds on Tuesday night, potentially Wednesday morning for your trip into work, for your I don't know, breakfast with the kids, get them starting early with gambling. Not a bad thing to do. normalize it, make it something that is good for everyone in this country. Thanks for joining us again. Andrew Snickers handles A_SCHNITKER. I'm the real_G Warner, and this is the second episode of an unnamed podcast that deals with the NFL. So we'll talk to you soon.